Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone, or good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're listening. Welcome to the 85th of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D slash TTRPG slash nerd, anime, basketball, hodgepodge podcast, where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the Bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer any questions that you might have in regard to any of those subjects. I hope that everybody's doing well. Happy Friday. So let's take a look here. At the beginning of the show, we like to remind everyone of the email, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice, if that helps you remember. Please send all questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques, queries, etc. to bardadvice@gmail.com. As I mentioned before and would like to continue to mention, the questions are half the show, so please send them in. It's much appreciated. Even if you think it's silly or if you've never asked one before, send a question over, bardadvice@gmail.com. You can also get merchandise over at manshorts.com, or more importantly, lately, you can go to krakendice.com and get one of our 4 limited sets that we released with them this year. And if you would like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzik. Glad to see everybody here. Hope everybody's doing well. So also at the top of the show, I like to extend a thank you to all of our members, our patrons, our super chatters. Remind everybody to please like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, as well as rate the podcast on your respective platforms. It's very helpful for the algorithms wherever they be. So, got some questions this evening as well as a follow-up. I will say I'm not going to go too much longer than an hour this evening because I do need to get to sleep. Got some stuff to do tomorrow. So, and yes, as always, River's posted a link in the Discord. Thank you, River. So anybody that wants to join the Discord and hop in there and talk about D&D/nerd stuff, it's always a fun time. So, okay, let's do Art Corner. Now, this week for Art Corner, we have 2 things. The first thing that I want to do is shout out is actually based on a question that we received last week from a gentleman named James, who is, his online handle is Roxilus118. And I just wanted to, as I said that I wanted to shout him out on Art Corner. So anybody that's interested in watching streaming of like classic gaming, or he did mention to me as well, which we'll go over at the end of the episode when we do the follow-up, he did mention that he and his D&D group are going to start playing and streaming that again soon as well. So you can go check his stuff out on YouTube. He's Roxilus118 Gaming. On Twitch, it's Roxilus118, and then on TikTok, it is Roxilus Grim. That's Roxilos Grim. And then Roxilus118 on Twitch and Roxilus118 Gaming on YouTube. So go check him out, show him some love. He's going to be, like I mentioned, streaming some stuff as like classic games that, you know, our generation kind of grew up with, as well as in the future potentially doing some streaming with his D&D group. So go check that out. The other thing that I wanted to mention, actually have a few other things I wanted to mention for Art Corner, is this documentary that my wife and I started watching on HBO, and it's brought to you by the people who brought Tiger King. So I think it's the same director, probably a lot of the same production crew, and they're making this one called Chimp Crazy, and it's about this woman who essentially has done the same kind of deal with the tigers that Joe Exotic did, but with chimpanzees. And it's wild. There's only 1 episode out, as far as I know, and it is way crazy because, you know, it's funny they mention in the documentary, they're like, well, you know, chimpanzees are only like, you know, they're like 98.4% human DNA. And it's like, yeah, dude, but that 1.6% will just pick you up and throw you across the room. It's a real dangerous thing. And it's also, you know, there's ethical questions about it as well. So if you were somebody that liked Tiger King, it's definitely one of those kind of like train wreck scenarios that's hard to look away from. So I would definitely recommend checking it out if and you have HBO. It's been quite the ride just with the first episode. And then the other thing that I quickly wanted to mention, two other quick things. I do have the Middle Ages album coming out. I still have not confirmed how I'm going to do that. I don't think that I'm going to release it to my distributor. I think that I'm just going to upload it onto my YouTube channel, on my Yazik channel, as just a full-length album with the lyrics that you can follow along with, because, you know, I don't want to get too in the woods, in the weeds, woods with that stuff legally. So, but it is a fun album that we made, and I enjoy it, so I'm going to be releasing it there. And then also, our official first episode of Bartificial Intelligence that I'm going to be making, it's kind of a stream/podcast thing with my buddy Song. We'll be doing that officially on the 1st of September, so not this Sunday, but the next one. Although this Sunday, we probably will be doing kind of like a dry run, and that's going to be on his YouTube channel, it's Songaria. And that's going to be a podcast where we build songs with AI music live on stream with chat and such. So if you're interested in that, definitely check that out. Like I said, I'll talk more about it next week before the first real episode, but like session 0 episode is going to be this Sunday. But then next Sunday on the 1st, it'll be the first official episode of the Bartificial Intelligence stream. So come check that out. Okay, so let's see. We've got 7 questions this evening as well as a follow-up. And like I said, I don't want to get too far after an hour, so I'm going to try and get through them. But I think that's everything that we have for the beginning and the housekeeping and the art corner and stuff, so we can move on. The first question of the evening is from Ben. And Ben asks... Hi, Chaz. So it looks like the short-sighted behavior of WotC continues. It was recently announced that as part of the new PHB/edition drop, all D&D spells and magic items from 5e will be removed from the D&D Beyond website. What do you think about this? Do you think they will lose subscribers? Thanks for all you do. Well, thank you for the question, Ben. I didn't know about this until you brought it to my attention, although I can't say that I'm, like, shocked. It's not crazy. Definitely short-sighted is a good word, I think, to describe it. I mean, honestly, at this point, like, when you consider the last couple of years, it sounds like WotC to me. Sounds like Wizards of the Coast to me. I don't understand the point of their doing this, unless the plan is to, like, sort of circumnavigate the OGL drama by, like, protecting new IP by renaming the spells like something that's their own specific copyright, so that they're not part of any kind of OGL, right? Which is, you know, tricky business, but sounds like corporate stuff. Like, obviously, people still have physical copies of the 5e PHB, right? And, like, a lot of the 5e books. So you can't really take that away. But I imagine more people, way more people, used the website to retain that data. And now it's just going to kind of go away, which is unfortunate. You know, people have paid for that kind of stuff and more, like, paid to use it, really, over the years digitally, and it just goes away. It's real weird. Like, didn't something come out about PlayStation recently where it's like, oh, you don't really own these games. Like, you pay to play them, but you don't own them. And like not talking about like resale, right? That's a totally different thing. But just in general, like, is it yours when you purchase it? And it's a shame to see that that's kind of spilled over into the TTRPG space. But I haven't seen anywhere where they've explained their reasoning for doing it. I mean, I would hope that somebody from their company at least made a statement. I haven't seen it, but it seems very much like, oh, well, it's ours, so we can just take it down, and then you don't have it anymore. And then with the new stuff, it's just like, oh, that's not Eldritch Blast. That's actually Zach's Big Kaboom now, and we own that copyright for that as Wizards. So now you can't use it. It's not in the OGL. You know what I mean? It seems like it's a long way going around to protect IP and like of spells and magic items, since they'll likely be more detailed and specific with their names and effects. I don't know. What do people think about this? What do you say, chat? Good thing I never used that site in the first place. Yeah, I feel that. I mean, honestly, I have several books on D&D Beyond. So it does seem silly that they're just going to like axe that whole Watsy's burning bridges. Sounds like it's time to start a class action. I mean, it might be. You know, I said before in the No GL diss track I made, like, don't throw rocks at the murder hobos. Nerds is a different thing, and they've been doing it with the Magic folks. I mean, they've been doing it with D&D for a while. And I feel like something like a AAA game studio, like EA Sports, can afford to just churn out, you know, half-hearted 2K after half-hearted Madden, and people will still buy it just because they can survive on volume. I don't think that D&D can survive on volume. And maybe they have been because there's been like a boom since Stranger Things. But I think they might find that people are more than happy to just go play something else. Sony and Ubisoft have pulled this. They claim you don't own the game, yet effectively renting the license. Yeah, that seems insane. Basically, Xbox is the same way. Any digital can be discontinued. What is going on, guys? What are we letting them do to us? You know, there's a song about this on the Middle Ages. That album will be available on my Yazzik YouTube soon. I always had the feeling that buying books on D&D and Beyond was a scam. Yeah, I always did too. It always seemed very odd. It's like, well, what's the purpose of this? Why wouldn't you just have me pay like a $5 a month membership fee to have access to all the content? Because effectively I'm paying what I would pay for a physical book. Then why don't I just get that? Do have PDFs of all their books stored in them too. Oh, nice. That's why you always advocate playing games whose entire mechanics is available on Wiki for free. Yeah, or something like GURPS, right? Where it's just kind of like there's one book, and once you have that book, you got all you need. I don't know. It just seems unfortunate. It's just a shame that they just keep going down this path of, you know, maybe they've been that way since they got bought by Hasbro. Who knows? Working on decorating. Oh, is this Halloween stuff? I have a question about that coming up. But yeah, I mean, I think it's silly. I think it's foolish of Wizards. I don't know what their goal is. Like I said, I haven't heard anything from them. I haven't heard anybody say anything from the company. So I'd be interested to hear a representative and what they have to say. All right, so let's move on. Thank you for the question, Ben. The next question is from Chris. We actually have a couple of Chris questions tonight. There's actually three, and there's one from each, and well, two of them are from one, and then one is from another. But it's Chris all over, so. Okay, so the next question is from Chris, and Chris asks, with fall quickly approaching, how early is too early to start decorating for Halloween? Listen, as far as I'm concerned, Halloween is permitted to be celebrated year-round. Now, it's not like I'm constantly having spooky stuff up in the house, but I love Halloween. It's probably my favorite holiday, and, you know, even though we don't decorate year-round, you know, we probably won't put our stuff up until like mid-October. But I mean, you know, I think it's different for everybody. Some people say that it starts on July 5th because like July 4th is like the last like major celebratory holiday. Obviously, there's Labor Day, but I feel like Labor Day is more of those like, hey, we get off work kind of holidays. I mean, Labor Day, but July 4th being like the last big major celebration before Halloween. A lot of people they're just like, oh, it's Halloween time. It's spooky season officially. And you know, some people say it starts on September 1st, which, hey, I mean, that's like a week away. I don't know if there's such thing as too early on Halloween. My wife and I were just discussing about like the money that we've spent on decorations over the years usually goes to Halloween. Like, I feel like you have to kind of pick one or the other as far as decorations go, unless you like have a bunch of extra money. And so I defer to Halloween. I really like that holiday. It was fun. Mom always has Halloween decorations. Leave them up all year. I see a lot of people say no Halloween before Labor Day. I have neighbors that start decorating August 1st, though slowly. The big stuff usually comes out in September. I can get behind that if it's like a process of like transitioning into. It does seem a bit crazy that you would have like your yard in full horror haunted house mode in like the middle of August or even September, really. But I don't know. It's, there's such there's such thing as like theme decorating as to the season and just kind of like shifting into that mode. Used to be my favorite holiday. Now you don't think you have one. Start Christmas at Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's true too. And department stores start Christmas like as soon as Halloween's over. Matter of fact, I feel like the last couple of seasons, places like Walmart have just been putting it all up in like mid-September. It's just like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Here it all is, available for purchase for the next 3 months. Because, yeah, I guess people just get it when they get it. Celebrating Christmas, I think, is more just about like family. Not really too big on a lot of holidays in general, honestly. Like Thanksgiving and Christmas, I feel like are just really just kind of excuses to get together and see your family that you might not have seen, many of which you might not have seen throughout the year. So I think that's good. But as far as just like, hey, I want to celebrate today, like pretty much Halloween, maybe St. Pat's. Put up all the holiday decorations at once and have a disjointed mix and match so nobody knows what you're doing at any time. Down with folks decorating their place however they want, whenever they want. It's their place. Yeah, I can get behind that attitude too. It, as that kind of stuff is like a non-issue to me as far as like people's decorations. It doesn't really bother me at all. Unless you're like, as long as I can drive, as long as you're not taking up the road, I got no beefs with whatever it is you're doing. Your Target already has Christmas stuff up. Whoa, wait, it's August. That's a little too soon. When do you purchase the tree? Yeah, that's true too. That's always you get a fake tree. That's the answer to that. Then you have a fake tree all the time. Gotta take 4 months to find your Valentine's Day. Sweetheart, it's their motto. What holiday? Well, I don't know. That's my point, is that it's just like, hey, if you're not like disrupting my life, you go ahead on and live yours. Your usual grocery store just put out their Halloween candy 2 weeks ago. Wow. Volume, folks. That's what they're just like, put it up. People will buy it. People will be buying it for the next few months. We can just we can get our profits while we can. Friends of yours cover up their tree with a blanket. Now that seems a little odd. Although, I bet way convenient when it's time to it's like, well, it's Christmas time. Take the blanket off. They'll buy it, eat it. Need to get more for the actual holiday. That's a really solid point. My wife said that to me today too. She was like, we're talking about October coming up, and she was like, she's like, we can't eat candy all month. I was like, what do you mean? It's Halloween. Christmas tree with a sheep becomes a ghost. Christmas tree ghost. I'm the ghost of Christmas tree. I'm under your blanket in your living room. If you're buying a live tree, you get it 2 weeks for December. Burn it in the fire for New Year's. Oh, wow, man. We used to do that. We used to do Christmas tree fires in Justin's backyard. Those were fun. Albeit dangerous. Definitely fun. I have friends for whom the rest of the year is an excuse for Halloween planning. Yeah, I've got a couple of friends that are like that are just like year-round spooky. And like even it's like hardcore when it's actually the time for Halloween, because it's like they're like that throughout the year anyway. 3 or 4 Christmas trees through the season. That seems to be crazy. Gorge yourself at the end on candy. That's a good idea. Yeah, maybe I could make that deal where it's like, all right, we won't eat any candy until the week of Halloween, and then the week of Halloween, it's the purge. We just do whatever we want with candy. Oh, well, sorry to hear that you haven't seen our videos. I will say lately they've been a lot more sporadic in their posting, but there have been algorithmic changes in the last year or two as well that have not been great for us views-wise, but glad that you were able to catch a bardadvice episode. All right, so thank you for the question, Chris. Much appreciated. The next question. Oh, this one's real fun. Not that that one wasn't fun. This one's from Kirk, and this one's real fun. I'll be interested to see what people say to this. I actually kind of wrote it all out pretty quickly, so let's just see what people think about it. So this question is from Kirk, and Kirk asks, for each character class, what genre of music would they listen to? Thank you very much for the question, Kirk. And please, out there, if you're sending in questions, feel free to frame one like this. I've had a lot of enjoyment answering these kind of questions about, what would each class, etc. So this is cool. So I'm just gonna run through it. Feel free to say what your opinions are in the chat. But this is what I got. Barbarian is death metal or black metal. Bard listens to a little bit of everything, but what he or she listens to the most are Broadway show tunes. Cleric says they listen to everything, but really they just listen to like soft jazz, or soft rock rather, and light jazz. Druids listen to bluegrass and folk music, maybe a little blues. Fighter listens to classic rock and occasionally punk rock. Monk listens to a cappella and chant music. Paladin listens to orchestral music and new wave. I don't know why. Ranger listens to indie rock and blues. Rogue listens to techno and hip-hop. Sork listens to alternative rock and disco. Wizard listens to classical and pop. And the Warlock listens to ska and reggae. Honorable mention for the Artificer, who is not a base class, but the Artificer doesn't really listen to music as much as he or she listens to podcasts about engineering. So, no gospel for clerics? Maybe. Yeah, you could probably put gospel in there. Cleric is, I listen to all kinds of music, and then they have like a, I don't know, like a Switchfoot CD in their car. No matter how much you water it, it will be still be dead. Druids love progressive. Haven't been online at the right time to catch bardadvice. Is a pleasant. Oh, well, glad that you could join. We're happy to have you. Electro swing. I feel like that would fall into like either maybe the indie rock or the alt rock category. Rogue doesn't just listen to techno. How about new metal for the Rogue? Well, to be fair, I did say techno and hip-hop for the Rogue, so maybe there's probably room for new metal in there. Oh, you know what else occurs to me, too? The Warlock with ska and reggae might be a little too upbeat. I feel like the Warlock listens to, like, industrial stuff. like 9 Inch Nails and stuff. Barbarian listens to BR dang. What? Artificer makes dubstep music. The Bardificer. Rogues listen to gangster rap. Yeah, that'd be inclusive of hip-hop. Artificer does industrial. Thieves listen to all music, but quietly. Oh, Ramstein for the Warlock. Well, I don't know. That's what I was thinking for, like, Barbarian. Is Ramstein considered dark? What is Ramstein considered? What is their genre? Just metal? What about, like, power metal? Like Dragon Force? Everybody listens to Dragon Force. Death metal. I don't know. Oh, Mudvayne. Oh my gosh. I haven't thought of that band since I was like 14. You know what's funny? I, as a young bard, listened to a lot of, I feel like 8th and 9th grade, there was a lot of like Mudvayne and Slipknot. There was a lot of Slipknot and Korn and that's really when I started to get into hip hop, I guess, is like when I got hooked into the Eminem, Slim Shady. The Marshall Mathers LP came out when I was 13. So that started me down the row into the world of hip hop. Listened to lots of punk rock. I did listen to a lot of punk in high school too, and I was in a ska band in high school. Listened to it like later in high school, because like 8th and 9th grade, I guess it was real like aggro. Like, but I feel like 10th and 11th grade, it was a lot of ska and punk. It was a lot of, oh man, like Ramones and Op Ivy and Less Than Jake and Real Big Fish. Iowa. You know, it's funny. I remember that album so well. I remember getting the CD at Best Buy and walking out into the parking lot and being almost blinded by it because the cover of it is like a silver. It's like it has like an aluminum sheen to it or something. So it just like blinded me. Didn't like Corner and Say. I never was really a big ICP fan. I mean, I guess I can respect those guys to an extent as far as like building their own like following, but I was never really into them. Mudvayne, like slightly. I was way heavy into Slipknot. Corey Taylor went through How to Make That album. Yeah, and then the punk stuff, and then also like that was kind of the birth of like that whole emo screamo like post-hardcore era, like 02, probably like 02, 03, because like a lot of the bands that were like punk or even pop punk started shifting into that direction. Like Sum 41 comes to mind. Like their first few albums were very like poppy punky, and then they got more and more like into the aggressive like post-hardcore feel. I'm so glad to see Static X before Wayne. Yeah, and I was just talking to my uncle today about Nirvana. Oh, and I heard a cool story about Nirvana recently, and maybe it's just been making its rounds online, but about Dave Grohl and like the reason that he came back to the States to make Foo Fighters is that after Kurt's death, he went on like vacation in Ireland. Well, not like vacation, you know, like to get away, basically, in grief. And in doing so was like driving around the Irish countryside, and he just like saw this kid that was like walking down the street, and he had a Kurt Cobain shirt on. And so Grohl had this moment of just like, oh, I can't escape this. Like, I need to go back. And that's why I went back and made the Foo Fighters. That's what he says, at least. So I thought that was kind of a cool story. How did we get here? Oh, we were talking about music. Yes. So yeah, I think those are all. I would like to add, I do feel like the Warlock would be kind of like the Bard as well, in the sense that they kind of listen to a little bit of everything. Because I kind of am that way. But if I'm fully honest, I've said before, I don't listen to much music these days unless it's stuff that I'm making. Like, obviously, if somebody was like, hey, listen to this, check it out. And I do, like, kind of keep an ear to the ground when it comes to, like, new hip-hop artists and stuff. But for the most part, if I'm, you know, on the computer and doing stuff or gaming, I've usually got, like, a podcast in the background. So that's why I threw that in there about the Artificer. I thought that was fun. Okay. Got to keep moving. Got more questions. Thank you for the question, Kirk. That was fun. Those are always fun. The next question of the evening is from River. And River asks, excuse me. River asks, do you have a favorite quest in Baldur's Gate 3? Thank you for this question, River. I will say, I thought about this for a while because I thought it was an interesting question. And I wasn't fully sure because we did just finish our second playthrough, which we have officially finished that. It's not finished on the videos. I think that there's maybe like at least 4, if not 6 more episodes of the Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough before that's over. But in real life, we finished it last week. And I think I've done pretty much all of the quests at this point. And I still think that my favorite is probably Ethel. Because mostly what I like about it is its depth and also like ways it can play out. Because it's one that's like very simple. And I feel like this is something that could happen in a campaign too. Like in a real like D&D campaign. You set up this like seemingly very kind of simple plot line. And it ends up getting like really cool and having twists and turns and different things happening, because the way you find her, like on the road and stuff, I think is way cool. Just that first kind of interaction, and then however that pans out as far as where it goes. And then it is possible, you know, spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, but it's been out like a year now, right? So, plus Ethel's like an Act 1 story. You can kill her in the first interaction, but if you don't, because it's possible that you don't, then you'll fight her at least once more, if not twice more. I think maybe you fight her in like her hut or whatever, and if you don't kill her there, she goes downstairs, and then you go downstairs and fight her again, and if you don't kill her there, then you'll meet her even later down the road. And the reason that I like it so much is that the first time we played through, that's what happened. We fought her in her hut. We met her on the road, found her in the hut, fought her in the hut, didn't kill her. She went downstairs into the whole, like, you know, hag sanctuary, creepy town stuff. And we followed her down in there, fought her again, didn't beat her, or maybe it's seemingly we beat her, and then, you know, completed the objective. And then in like Act 2, is it? Act 3? She comes back, and you have to fight her again. And what sold it for me is that the second playthrough we did, we just killed her in the house in like one round, and it was over. And that was the first time that it occurred to me that, like, oh, all of that stuff is not supposed to necessarily happen. It can happen, but it doesn't necessarily unfold that way. And I just think that's super cool. Because like I said, it seems like such a small, easy, kind of simple story. And I guess that it can be, because the way that it played out for us our second playthrough, we just like wiped her out. And it was, you know, it was like, oh, that was easy. That was way easier than it was the first time. But the first time I assumed that that's how it always played out. Like, oh, this is the story. And it's like, well, yeah, assuming that you don't defeat her in the first act. Isn't simple task, escalates massively. Basically just how campaigns go. Yeah, that's true. I think back to like the We Play when we fought the beavers. And I almost drowned. It continues from Act 1 to Act 3 and can change a lot. Honorable mentions to Shadowheart's Quest. Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool. Ethel comes back in Act 3 even if you kill her in Act 1. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I don't think we ever saw her again. Because we're done. Any advice on how to start D&D? Well, my recommendation would maybe be to start in the Discord here. You might be able to find something that's going on there. Other than that, you can go on to places like Reddit or like online chat rooms where people are playing. And I just get, well, with the new stuff, I don't know. I guess you'd have to get the new book and or books. But yes, Tim, my biggest recommendation would be to join the Discord. And River just dropped a link for it there in the chat. So you can go join it if you want to. Probably find something that's going on in there. Or you can go to your friendly local gaming store if you have one. A local game or card store. Probably find something there. But I highly recommend you jumping in because it is fun. FLGSs usually have open play nights. Yeah, that is true. If you have a friendly local gaming store in your area, just search for, you know, some place you can buy Magic cards. We'll probably do. Or like TTRPG stuff in general. They probably have like, you know, Wednesday night noobs or something where people are just like welcome to come and join because, you know, in my experience, unlike stuff like gaming or like sports, like I think with TTRPG stuff, people are usually like really encouraging for people to get into it and join. So I'm sure that wherever you go, you'd be welcome with open arms if you were looking for a new campaign and or group. Okay, so yeah, that's Ethel. Oh, and then yeah, that's beyond that. What I said about the Ethel quest, plus all the lore in between. You know, like her being like a hag who has all this havoc and destruction in her wake, and you get to kind of it almost feels like very amusement park ride ish when you're like going through the stuff and talking to the people and it's all kind of unfolding. And in fact, that it's kind of the only quest that does that in the game. I don't know, maybe not. I just really like it. So that's my answer. That's my final answer. Ethel's quest. Okay, so Ethel is an older name, yeah, and she's like 600 years old or something, I think, in the game. All right, so thank you for the question, River. That was fun. The next question is from Chris, and I think that this is from the other Chris, and then later we'll have a question from the other Chris who asked the first Chris question. Anyway, this one's from Chris, and Chris asks, "Hey there, Bard. Another Chris question coming at you. So I'm going to be starting a new campaign in a few months, and one of my players is going to be an Artificer. Having never played one or had one in a party before, I'd like clarification on their crafting ability. I found the crafting table for basic items, but what if they want to create a custom weapon or item? How do I know cost, materials, and time? Do I, as the DM, just come up with something based on the complexity of the item? Thanks in advance." Thank you for the question, Chris. I do think that you, in my opinion, may have answered your question in your question. But feel free to sound off in chat, any artificers in here that can speak to that. This is just what I wrote up about it, because this is just how I would handle it as a DM and or as a player. So for homebrew stuff, I usually defer to the DM to decide on how that stuff works. So the easy way for you as the DM would just be to have the player provide you with the info that they think is fair. Now, if there's somebody that's like a power gamer, they could try and abuse that. But I do feel like in my experience, most people, it's an expectation thing. Everybody's there to like enjoy themselves. And I've done a lot of homebrew stuff over the years where, you know, I probably could have asked for more but didn't want to push it. Because it's kind of a thing where it's like, the DM not only has to, I think as a DM, you have to make it a thing where it's not too broken for the player, but it also is rewarding enough for them to have come up with it in the first place. So the easy way is for them to just like, you just say, yeah, if you want to make something, you just tell me what you think it costs, and then I'll, you know, give the yay or nay on that. If you wanted to ensure yourself directly that it wasn't too broken, then you could set those things up yourself, in which case, just like you'd mentioned, what I would do is I would just look at stuff that is similar to it in nature and then just kind of try to create a custom cost for those kind of things. I always defer to the DM to make those calls. Even if I make up the stats myself, I'll run it by them, and maybe the conversation is like, oh, it should cost 100 gold instead of 50 gold. I think as long as you and the player are both happy, then you can afford to make a lot of those calls yourself. Depends on how custom, but yes, it's up to the DM. DMs have the ultimate decision. Yeah, so I think really it's just a question of like, do you want easy or do you want to ensure that it's fair in your own mind by, you know, basically there's two ways you can go about it. The player says like, hey, I want to make a custom weapon. And so you can either approve or disapprove of something that they recommend, or you can just tell them what it is. Either way, it's ultimately at your discretion as to how that's handled. And it can be kind of a thin, kind of a tightrope. A lot of my experience with forever DMs like Ethan and Posey is that they would usually let us do a lot, but they would also do a lot back. What I mean is like, you might think that you're putting one over on the DM with Ethan and or Posey, or really any DM, by, you know, I've got this ability and I could do this and then I could spam it with this and then I'm untouchable. And it's like, yeah, well, the DM can also just like create a whole weapon that never existed before that its entire existence is to counter whatever that is. And That's totally a possible thing they can do. I want to make a leather bracelet with a green gem in the center and imbue it with the spell Polymorph Self. It isn't limited to the number of creatures. That's going to be expansive. That's how I do it. I have an artificer in my game who wanted to make a blood transfusion machine to help cure some people. And it cost a lot of gold, like 5,000 gold, and fabricate spell scroll. Wait a minute, hold on. What pirates say? You can only use it once per day, and you roll a d100 for the creature. And then go to that page of the monster manual, and that's your creature you polymorph into. Still going to be expensive. Have something that takes time and certain actions to unlock the different features. Comes some kind of a side effect. Yeah, you know, the other thing you could do, too, is, like, make it more exciting than just... You know, like, maybe the materials that they need for the thing, maybe it's not just about cost. Well, at least monetary cost. Maybe one of the things that they need to make the thing is a material that they could only get in like this very specific region of the map. And so now, in addition to knowing that they have to go there, they've also got to convince the party to go there really for only that reason. Or you can always line it up with like a side quest or even as part of the main campaign. Could be a cursed item. It's the Ben 10 Omnitrix. River says he'd allow it so long as you understand if you roll a 10 or less on the D100, what you turn into will be a guaranteed TPK. Whoa. Now that, I think, makes it less expensive because you're making up for the cost on the other side. You know what I mean? Wasn't sure if there were specific guidelines. Yeah, no worries, Chris. And like I always say, you know, Raw is just kind of there. I don't think, you know, there's no D&D police that are going to be like, hey, you're under arrest. You let your player do this? So, I mean, as long as everybody's having fun and nobody feels like they're being taken advantage of, I think you're good. A cleric with a green ring and that's holy symbol, the spawns of a spiritual weapon. Hold on, are you talking about Green Lantern? What's happening? Are you guys just naming D&D effects and like... It's like we're making cartoon characters. There's rational prices list for 5e you've seen floating around somewhere. Oh, that's a good point. The new D&D race changes. You know, I think that there's pros and cons about it. I do think that it's smart of them to change it to species because that's technically more accurate, I think, from a standpoint of like if you're playing as like an elf versus a dwarf versus a human. I do think that it's silly that they did away with the minuses, but I mean, that's been so long ago. These days, everything just seems modular when it comes to abilities, and it's like you can create your own +2, +1, or whatever. So, yeah, you know, I feel like the last year or two, the behavior from Wizards has really kind of hammered home the idea that it's like, oh, we don't need these people at all. We, for the most part, we all know the game. So it's like, we don't need to follow whatever rules they're doing and changes they're doing. And that is why I think that they're being so bold as to just be like, oh, well, if you're going to do that, then we're just going to delete all the content and you're not going to have access to it anymore. Well, be careful, River. Try and stay off the radar. The polymorph or wild shape has a percentage of becoming permanent. Oh, that one's scary too. If the item is iffy, maybe give it side effects that aren't immediately evident. Your gold starts disappearing. Foes always attack you first. Unattractive people are irresistibly drawn to you. Had a player was an artificer who wanted to set up a small factory to make common items. Had them roll on several metrics. Quality, cost, expense, volume. Oh, dude, this is just like a business, like factory maker RPG. Provided a nice passive income. All right. Well, that was fun. That was a good one as well. Hopefully you got some good tips there, Chris, either from me and or chat. So let's keep moving. Got 2 more questions, and then we're going to do a follow-up, and then I'm going to be getting out of here. So the next one is from Tyler. Tyler asks, hello, DM. With the recent negative reviews of the Borderlands movie, my wife and I are a bit conflicted on whether or not to go see the film in theaters. As movies have gotten more and more expensive, we only go a few times a year. We were discussing going to see Beetlejuice 2 instead. What are your thoughts? Thank you for the question, Tyler. First of all, let me just say, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about the Borderlands game series. I never really got into it, if I'm honest. I see the appeal. I'm sure that it's great. I'm sure they're great games. But I can't really speak to that stuff. What I can speak to is the scathing reviews that I've seen about this movie. And there's this girl on TikTok that she wrote a song, and the lyrics were only comprised of reviews, like actual reviews about Borderlands. And the opening of it is such an earworm because it's like, if Zoolander 2 and Dragon Ball Evolution had a baby, and that baby had a baby with the son of the mask, Borderlands would still be worse than that. I was just like, whoa, that is a lot. That is a lot to say. And if there's any truth to that, maybe you don't want to go see it. Again, I don't know anything about the lore. I don't know. What are people saying in chat? Save yourself some money and don't see Borderlands. It's awful. It's got like a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. Look, I'm not much of a review guy, but I do think when a movie's that low, that says a lot. Go see Tim Burton's art. Yeah, no doubt. Go watch Beetlejuice. That's what I was going to say. That's the short answer. Go see Beetlejuice. Or Flint says go see Deadpool and Wolverine instead, which I've also heard great things about. There's a new Aliens movie. Borderlands is worse than The Room. Oh, dude, The Room's great. Well, it's, yeah, definitely for the meme. What did I actually say about this, though? Oh, yeah, literally my only answer was go see Beetlejuice 2. My wife and I watched the original Beetlejuice night before last. Maybe last night. And it still holds up. And part of the reason that it still holds up is, for one, Tim Burton's style is he's very smart with his style. In the same way that like Quentin Tarantino and like great filmmakers are good in their styles, it allows them to be timeless. Not only movies that they've made, but also staying relevant over the course of 20, 30 years. And I did see a recent clip of Michael Keaton on TikTok who was speaking to the fact of like, when he and Tim Burton originally spoke about redoing it, they wanted to make sure that they didn't have him as Beetlejuice in the movie more than he was in the first one. Like they very much wanted to keep it like the first one. They very much wanted to avoid CG, so they kept everything like practical effects, or at least 1988 practical. And that to me seems like a way less risky investment, because it's Beetlejuice. I don't think we're going to be disappointed with that. I kind of want to go see that myself. And yeah, I don't know what happened with Borderlands. That's a shame. I feel like it's very hit or miss with these video game shows and movies, right? Like, I think Fallout was fantastic, but I've heard terrible things about Borderlands. And I've heard mixed stuff about the Halo show. But then you look at stuff like The Last of Us, which I think was really well done. So yeah, I don't know. If I'm spending the money, if I'm dropping like, how much does it cost to go to the movie house these days? You and your wife, what is it going to be? $75-$80. If you're doing that, I think you're much better off doing it with Beetlejuice. Plus, Catherine O'Hara's back in it, and Winona, and what's that girl, Jenna Ortega? She reminds me of like a young Winona. So if you want to watch a horror flick, watch Longlegs. Isn't that Nick Cage? Heard things about that too. Whoa, Ballistic EKS versus Server got a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, but I feel like in some ways 10% is worse than 0%, right? Because like, I don't know, it's like the Room effect. It's like the Room's like a beloved cult classic in the sense of like, we all know that it's bad. But having 10% is like, whoa, you're really only speaking to like 1 out of 10 people? 1 out of 10 people liked it? I would rather everybody dislike it than 1 out of 10 people like it. I haven't been to a movie theater since 2011. Saw a 1 p.m. showing of Deadpool, and ticket, soda, popcorn, and M&M's was about $35. Yeah, That's crazy town. Mario Brothers was terrible. Double Dragon was awful. Street Fighter at least had Raul Julia. Mortal Kombat flopped. Well, the first Mortal Kombat was cool, although I imagine a lot of that's tied up with nostalgia. And then the remake of Mortal Kombat, I feel like Kano was like the only good part. It was like the only thing that I enjoyed. Like the opening sequence of the new Mortal Kombat movie, and then Kano as a character, and you can keep the rest. Wasn't that great, I think. Beetlejuice and the new Alien have really cool popcorn buckets. Oh, yeah, that's like their new thing. Oh, there is a new Crow coming out. Who's the new Crow? Remind me, someone. Borderlands is going to digital soon. Oh, yeah. Well, I suspect if if the reviews are terrible, then they'll probably just lose money if they keep streaming it. They might as well get it onto streaming, because then at least people that weren't willing to go spend all the money to go to the movie theater will watch it, and that might be helpful for them in terms of revenue. But it's tough. It's tough to bounce back from reviews that are that bad. I've seen some really bad. I mean, just break that down. Zoolander 2 and Dragon Ball Evolution. Those films have a baby who then has a baby with the son of the Mask. And then Borderlands is worse than whatever that is. That is a departure from what we would hope to expect from these video game, what do you call them? Recreations? I don't know. There's a better word for it. Adaptations, I guess you would say. I wish they would make Red Dead. That would be so cool. Oh man. If they make Red Dead, they should make it a show, though, because you could really drag that out over the course of like 50 episodes. It's an accurate description of how awful the Borderlands movie is. Yikes. Shouldn't have touched the Crow. Well, to be fair, they probably... Oh, it is Bill Skarsgård. Did you see it yet? I might actually be interested in seeing that, just because I like the character of the Crow. So... Okay. Thank you for the question, Tyler. Go see Beetlejuice 2. Save your money. Don't end up at one of these people that's going to end up on the Squirrel Song on TikTok because you write some terrible review about how awful it is. Okay. Last question of the evening, and then we'll do a quick follow-up, and then we'll do some very quick chat, is from Chris. And Chris asks, you've been sucked into the last video game you played and must survive a week as yourself. How screwed are you? Thank you for the question, Chris. Pretty screwed, because the last video game that I played was the other night. As I mentioned, we've finished our Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, and so this last Wednesday, instead of playing that, we played Phasmophobia, which I've never played. And yeehaw, is it scary. And, I mean, wow. I would not be doing well if I were stuck in that world. For starters, I died maybe every time. Every time, almost, I died. I think there were like 1 or 2 missions that we did where I survived it. But most of the time, it was just a lot of dying and wandering around. If you don't know, by the way, Phasmophobia is a ghost hunter game where you and your friends... You're like a ghost hunting squad, and you go to these haunted places, and you each have like limited items that you can use, and they all do different kind of stuff. There's like the ghost detector, what's that, an EMF reader, and then there's like the radio that you use, and anyway, you have all these tools, and one of the maps is an asylum, and there's like 70 rooms or something. So scary, and you can't see but like a foot or 2 in front of you, even with the flashlight on. So there was a lot of that map where we just spent apart from each other, just kind of walking around lost. And that is real scary. So I'd rather not be trapped in that timeline. Thanks. It's a great game to stream. Only watched it and it looks... Yeah. I mean, it is fun. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's admittedly fun, especially like when you're together and you encounter the ghosts, or like... if everybody's in the room and then like the ghost comes in and kills somebody, that's a real freak out. So, what are people saying? 1980s Asteroids, Destiny 2. Honor mode Baldur's Gate 3, you're probably gonna live it. Dragon Age Inquisition. Played Need for Speed Payback. Baldur's Gate 3 got a decent chance, hopefully. Yeah, well, that, it all comes down to your class and such, right? The last game you played was math crosswords on your phone. That sounds like a terrible place to be trapped. Animal Crossing, that sounds fun. Animal Crossing would be a way fun place to be stuck in. Man, that kind of stuff's just making me think more and more about simulation theory. Anyway, thank you for the question, Chris. That was fun. I do want to do this quick follow-up and reminder before we do a little chat before we get out of here. So this one is from James, which we mentioned at the front of the episode, and just wanted to speak a little bit about his follow-up. Hey, Yazik, it's James again. Thank you so much for the advice you gave me on the content. Words can't describe how thankful I am for you putting me on this week's Art Corner. I'm planning on trying to go back and stream some of the classics that everyone played growing up to try to keep me unique with my content. I've also talked to my D&D playgroup, and when we start back, we are going to stream our sessions as well. Wow, that is fantastic news, James. And a reminder, again, of where you can find him and his content. On YouTube, he is Roxilus118 Gaming. On Twitch, he is Roxilus118. And then on TikTok, it is Roxilus Grim. That's Roxilos, and then Grim with 2 M's. So you can go check that stuff out and see what he's streaming. By the way, just while we're talking about it, if you're listening, James, you get yourself a profile pic, man, for your stuff. I noticed that you don't really have one. It's just kind of like the default. And that, I think, will probably go a long way for you in terms of like getting more followers and stuff. Even if it's not like a picture of you, like make yourself a logo or something. Just put something up there that's not the default, because I think that that'll help you a lot in getting more people interested in your stuff. So, decent chance you don't already have the artifact from Shadowheart, so you've already experienced Metamorphosis. Oh, man. As a DM, do you like playing with noobs on low-level quests or higher-level characters that may more be complex? I like the first thing. I definitely like, I'd rather play with new people on like lower-level stuff than it be like super intense and crazy high-level. If I'm DMing, that's assuming. Now, if I'm a player, it's the latter. But definitely the first one as a DM. TSR versus WotC. I don't know much about what TSR is doing, but I'll be honest, WotC's been pushing me more and more into a direction where I'm going to start looking. So, all right. Well, let's do a little chat, because we're already here towards the end. When are we going to answer the question I sent you in Discord? What's that question? You'll have to remind me of what it is. I can't remember at the moment. What's going on with everybody this week? Chat, good stuff for the week? My good stuff for the week is finished up the Middle Ages album and got that done. Getting the lyric video for that together. Making progress on all stuff. Fall is coming. Best vehicle. Best vehicle what? Just in general? I mean, that's difficult. Watching weather coming to Florida now that you live here. Oh, well, welcome. Welcome to Florida. It's been so hot. Tomorrow actually is going to be one of the lower averages of the summer. You ordered the water pump for the pirate vessel. Yeah, I'll have to look. Sorry, man. Good thing of the week, moving to a bigger apartment in the coming month. Oh, that's good. Looking forward to the Middle Ages album. Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's fun. It's a real fun jaunt. Good/bittersweet thing of the week. Finished our 1.5 long campaign last night. Oh, with an endgame style final fight discussed on here. Nice. That's really cool. TSR is the owner of D&D versus Wizards of the Coast. Oh, I couldn't speak to that. I don't have enough of a legal understanding to speak to that. Good thing I wrote a first draft for another homebrew class over the past few days, and it's shaping up nicely. Nice. Oh, wow. Jeez, Bean, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's terrible. I lost my dad geez, I guess it's been 6 years now. 6 years ago now. And that's terrible. Certainly wouldn't wish that kind of grief and pain on anybody. So hang in there, and you know, your grief is your own journey. Don't let people tell you that you have to act or feel a certain way. Chat, you got a kitty and you're halfway through finishing your D&D homebrew and ate 3 free donuts at work. That's good news. I've had a break from the heat in Maryland. That's good. That is a good thing. Any kind of break from the heat is good. Maybe in the triple digits weather in Texas. Well, we stay there, at least for the feel. Oh, yeah, no worries, man. No, Roxalus. No problemo. Hey, my name's Yazek. So, plus I worked a lot on the phones over the years, so I've seen lots of different names. Last names, first names, email names. So, I try to make it a point to pronounce correctly. I'm glad I did. It's between 110 and 118 all week. No thanks. Started swimming and exercising. It's been in the 50s in PA. That is weird. Grief comes and goes in waves. Yeah, most definitely. And you know, they try to do that thing where they're like, oh, it's the 5 stages of grief. And it's like, that thing is like a roller coaster with no brakes. So, you know, you just hang in there and get through it is my best recommendation. And, you know, lean on other family. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that's given to us. That's true. That's a very good point. We don't really have much choice about anything else. Life just kind of happens. So, all right. Well, like I said, folks, I don't want to stay too far over an hour. I don't want to be up too late editing on this because I've got to get up early and go do some stuff. So, before we get out of here, let's do the things that we like to do before we get out of here. The first of which is to remind everybody of the email address for the show, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. Oh, I might have shifted it, and it's not really centered now. Okay, now I think it is. bardadvice@gmail.com. Please send all your questions, concerns, complaints, queries, criticisms, critiques, etc. bardadvice@gmail.com. If you want to follow up on something, if you have something that you want to maybe submit for Art Corner, send all of that stuff there. If you want to get some merchandise, do so over at manshorts.com, or you can go over to krakendice.com and get one of our 4 limited dice set releases that we partnered with Kraken to produce this year. And if you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazek, YAHZICK. I thank all of you for joining us this evening and every week. It's very much appreciated. Couldn't do the show without you, folks, so thank you. Let's see. We will be back next week. Same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Man Shorts YouTube channel. The audio for this podcast, as always, will be made available tomorrow at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time. I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend and an even better week, and we will see you next time.